roll.
Dr. DeVault.
Present.
Ms. Flanagan.
Here.
Mr. Law.
Here.
Ms. Maddox.
Here.
Mr. Milner.
Here.
Ms. Rogers.
Here.
And Mr. Zale.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this morning's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor of this motion, please signify by raising your right hand. Take this opportunity to welcome any visitors that are present with us this morning. Members of the Henry County School Board staff. Appreciate you being here. And we particularly appreciate Dr. Stan Ball being with us, and Mr. Tom Alford, who will be joining us in January. And we're glad to have you with us here this morning, and look forward to getting to know both of you personally and having you work with this board. Congratulations. Yes, congratulations. This time I'll call on Rudy Law to deliver the invocation, and follow that with Mr. Miller. Thank you, allegiance.
That's what our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you so much that we can come together to do the people's business. Bless us. Help us to make the right decisions for all concerned. Look after the children of Henry County. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning we have no speakers signed up to address the board, so we'll move on to section 3 of our agenda, awards and recognition. Straight.
Good morning, Dr. DeVault, members of the board. It is my privilege and pleasure this morning to recognize the Philadelphia Collinsville Middle School band program. During the music showcase at the festival at Busch Gardens, our concert band competed against 36 other ensembles, and those ensembles came from across Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Maryland. And our school captured the Grand Sweepstakes Award. And as you see in the picture, our lovely students, this award was given to the highest scoring ensemble that performed during the festival. So at this time, I'd like to ask Assistant Principal Corbin Campbell and the band director from Philadelphia Collinsville Middle School, Scott Allred, to come forth and be recognized by taking a picture with Dr. Cotton and Dr. DeVault.
Thank you. All right, take hold of the outside.
Thank you all. And once again, Mr. Allred, congratulations to you and your ensemble each time you perform. It is evidence the hard work and dedication that you put forth. And would you like to say a few words?
I would, and I would like to thank the school board and Dr. Cotton in particular for recognizing us today for all the hard work that our students have done, not just this year, but in the years building up to this year. And I would say that we couldn't do it without the support of you and our administrators and parents, some of which are here. Dan Ball, who's been with us for many years, Scott, his children for many years, and way back when we were building, Ms. Rogers and your children. I want to thank you all, and I wish I had all the kids here because I would thank them because they are the reason that we do this, and they are our joy, and they are some of the hard working kids, not just in Henry County, but in the state of Virginia. We want to thank you again for recognizing us, and we will continue to strive and do well to satisfy those in Henry County and to continue to strive for excellence. Thank you.
We'll move to the consent agenda at this time. There are 5 items under that agenda. I won't mention mention each one separately, but if there is a question or comment about any of those items under the consent agenda, let's address those now before we approve. Any concerns, questions?
Move for approval of consent agenda. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Cotton, you mentioned maybe something about portfolio approval, portfolio purchase. Is anything you want to mention about that?
No, that's something that we've done for the past few years, and we've partnered with the county as well as Martinsville City schools as well to do the employee computer purchase for the last few years, and we'd like to continue to do it.
Okay. No additional questions or comments. Those in favor of the previous motion regarding approval of consent agenda, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous. Move on to information. We'll hear some information, I think, from Mr. House regarding the program.
Good morning, Dr. DeVault, members of the board. I want to take a few moments this morning to give you a closer look at measures of academic progress, or as it's commonly referred to, MAP, which is a new assessment program that we purchased through Northwest Evaluation Association. I apologize in advance to members of the audience. We're going to put up some slides. Bar graphs, I think you're going to be able to see those, but maybe some of the numbers are a little small. You may not be able to see those. Board members, each of you has an exact packet of what I'm going to be covering, so you'll be able to see the numbers and things there on that. To give you a little bit of background and a little history, we did pilot this program at Sambo Elementary School last year. We were very pleased with the results and the information it provided us in helping us to guide instruction and to provide interventions and strategies to improve student achievement. If you look at the very first sheet you have here, this is the normative data summary, and this is important because MAP, in putting together this information and these assessments, they will include over 13,000 different schools. And those schools are from across the country in terms of helping to shape or to set the norms for each grade level and for each assessment. Each grade level assessment has a minimum of 20,000 samples that they use in terms of developing the norms. And it's important to use in terms of the norms because it allows us to compare our students with how other students are performing across the country from various different socioeconomic backgrounds to various different regions of the country and so forth. So it gives us a comparison of where our students stand, and that's very important. It's also important that you understand that MAP is an adaptive test or an assessment in which when I sit down and take that assessment, every question that I answer correctly, it gives me a more difficult question. And then when I top out or I get a question wrong, then it starts to back down and it tries to find a level of where I'm functioning, which is good information for a teacher to know this is where I need to begin my instruction. I don't have to cover this because this particular student may have mastered that. So it's an adaptive assessment. Okay. The next chart that you're going to see is the normative chart, and we're only going to be concerned with those top three charts because we're not participating this year in the science portion of that. But at the top there you have, this is the reading norm chart, and it's by grade level. And here's the math, and here's language usage. Now this first column is a grade level, in other words, K through 11. The second column will give you a score, and this is like beginning for reading, 142.5. This is what is a kindergarten student is expected to, in order to be at the norm or the national norm, they should have a score of 142.5. When we give the mid-year assessment, it shows you there what that student, after the first assessment, how they should progress and what the next one should be. It should be 150, 151. And then you go over here to the third column, and that's the spring assessment, which will tell you where the student should be at the end of the year. Okay? Now, when you look at, we use this chart again to interpret the data. And the first student progress that you're going to see is from a kindergarten student. Now, what you need to look at here is the blue bar. The blue bar that you see right here represents, that's the student score that when we administered the fall assessment, which we did in August. We had a window between August and September in which our students all took that. So that's the score that's represented there. The second bar, the orange bar, that's the average score for all the students that took that assessment in our division, just Henry County students. So we compare our students to ourselves. And then the third bar, the yellow bar, that's the national norm. Okay? Now, when you look at this particular student score, the student scored a 138 in mathematics. And if you go back and we look at that chart, the math score should have been, for kindergarten students, should have been a 140, 3.7, a 144. So that's what we're shooting for. In this case, this particular student is above the district average by about 3 percentage points, but they're below the national average by about 6 points. Okay? Now, on out here further, this checkered graph here, that is the projected growth for this student. So that's where we want to see this student at the end of the year when we do that spring assessment. We want to see them there or beyond that. Okay? And also, if you look down here at the bottom graph, you'll see the reading score. And this particular student, kindergarten student, came into us and we assessed them. They're at a 143, right on target with the national norm. But if you look at our division, the division score there, we're slightly below the national norm. But this particular student is above it. Okay. Also, it's important if you look at these different strands or categories here, it will tell you specifically in regard to this student's math performance, they're struggling in number sense. They're struggling with patterns, functions, and algebra. Now, keep that in mind because at the end of my presentation, Ms. Motley is going to show you a particular tool that we have with this program that addresses those particular issues. Okay. This is also important. You know, we look at this kindergarten progress sheet here, and we'll use this information. We will pull all of our students who were in our preschool program. We will pull their data to see how they stack up and see are our preschool students below that, and then we can use that information in our preschools to do a better job of getting our students ready and prepared for kindergarten. So it gives us a wealth of information to draw from. Now, our next slide, we're going to look at a second grade student. Now, what's important about this slide is if you look at the blue graph, this student has scored above the district and the national average in every category. If you'll look at that, this student scored a 181 in math where the national average is 178 and the district is 172. And you go to reading, the student scored a 186 where the national average is 176 and the division was 171. In language usage, the student had a 187, while the national average was 175, and the district was 169. This is important because here's a student who's absolutely excelling. That's important for the teacher to know because we know we have to challenge that particular student and push them beyond in order to achieve their potential. If they just continue to go, well, they're doing well, we don't have to worry about it, then they're going to regress. So it's an opportunity for that teacher to see that student, I've got to challenge them. That's where our differentiation training comes in which we put that to use to make sure that student achieves his or her potential.
That's what I was just saying. This is such a great tool for differentiation and really making it easier, hopefully, for the teacher.
And the other thing that's important to look at with this, if you'll look at even this student has an area that they need to work on. And the number sense is a low average. So that tells me as a teacher, that's an area where I can push this student in terms of them achieving their full potential.
And the projection, is that calculated by math?
It's calculated on an individual. Every student has their own growth projection of where they should be based on their assessments. Okay. Next, we're going to look at a third grade student progress. And what's important about this is the fact that this is the first time that our students will encounter the state assessment program. And what MAP has done is they have provided us with a linking study. And what that does is tells us if this student scores in the fall assessment, if they score 189, that there is a 70% probability that that student will pass the spring assessment. And that, then again, what you do is you have to take into account that we're going to provide a lot of instruction along the way, so we want to get there. But that linking study will again tell us how far we're off from meeting the mark in terms of our student performance in third grade. And again, it also points out those weak areas or areas that need improvement, and also provides the growth projection. Okay. Next, we want to look at a fifth grade. This is a fifth grade student progress report, and this is important because this is an exit grade. This slide is important because it's an exit grade. Imagine being a teacher and being able to, when you receive this fifth grader from your elementary school, you have some information. You're armed with information on what you can do for this particular child. And you can see the bar graph, and in this particular instance, the student is above the average in mathematics, but below both the division and the national norm when it comes to reading. And so there are specific things that we can do and intervene to get that student where we want them to be.
Now, is this what we're looking at? Is this actual for our division?
It's actually, at least this is our data.
What I do like about this, it shows we're making progress by reading.
Yeah. All right. This is our actual data. And next we're going to look at a sixth grade student. Now, what's important about this particular thing is this is the receiving. You're on the receiving end. You're sixth grade. You get that. Again, the sixth grade child. This one, as you can see, they're at the district average, but slightly below the national norm in terms of mathematics and also in reading. Okay. But it's excellent baseline data, and then it also points out those areas that we need to work on specifically. So it provides targets for us in terms of our instruction. Okay. This next one is a seventh grade slide, and again, this is also important because, as you can see, this student is above the district and the national average as well. But again, as a teacher, you're armed with information that you can use in terms of pushing this particular student who's at I think a 232 in math, where the national average is 226 and the division average is 222. So, we know that while the student's performing well, if we don't challenge this student, that student could regress, but this is going to show because we're going to get another one. We're going to see what this student is going to do at our mid-year assessment. Okay. This next slide is one that I really think shows exactly what we're striving for. And this is a student who's a sixth grader in a middle school, and it's at FC. And the reason you see all those bars is because this is a student that was at Sample in the pilot project last year. And I really think this is crucial. When you look, this student started out last year in mathematics at a 209 in the fall assessment. In the winter assessment, they went to I think it's a 231, 225. Okay, and then you go up to the spring assessment. They're at 231. That's progress. When you see those blue bars moving along that, where they basically started at a 209 and ended up the year at a 231. That teacher moved that child. And again, that's pretty powerful data in terms of looking at student performance and being able to do it on a continuous basis from the fall assessment to the winter assessment to the spring assessment. And you see the same progress there. And I want to point out that in language usage, you saw it go from here up here to 250, and then we had a drop to 212. Well, that's also a red flag for you as a teacher. You can say, okay, what did I do during that time that allowed that to happen? Again, statistically, 3 points matter, but it may have been something that occurred in the, what's going on with the child. It could be an event or whatever, but it allows the teacher to examine the drop in performance. Okay. Now, this is also what I think is a very powerful piece. This is a student goal-setting worksheet. And I want to tell you, I went out on Monday when we had parent-teacher conferences, and I went out to several schools, and after the parents were coming out of the meetings with teachers, I stopped them and specifically asked about, can you just tell me how you feel about the information that you got on the MAP assessment? Overwhelmingly, parents said, this is great. I love to be able, I can see, where my child is, and they all said, I can't wait to see that after that winter assessment, so I can see my child grow. And it was actually, but it also, this worksheet brings the student to the table, because as you can see, this particular form will highlight their areas of strength in green. The yellow indicates areas that are concerned that they need to be working on, and then this student action plan. These are action plans that students sit down with their teacher and establish goals that they want to achieve. They can see themselves at 217. They're supposed to get 225, and the student may say, well, I can do 230. And then the teacher can say, well, this is what you need to do to get to 230. So they work collaboratively to set goals. And research will tell us when you engage students in the goal-setting process, they're more apt to achieve that if they're involved, engaged in learning as opposed to being a passive learner. So, again, and there's a place on the form here down the bottom where the student signs off on it, the instructor signs off on it, and also the parents. So, it strengthens that partnership between the school and home. And like I said, I went to several schools, and overwhelmingly, the parents said this is really good information for us to have. Next, I just want to share with you briefly, this is a class report. This is basically something that our teachers can run and look at their overall group. I can know if I've tested 107 kids and I'm teaching math, well, 13 of my students are in this low category, 14 are in the low average category. But the beauty of this is that with this system, they can run individual reports that will tell that teacher exactly who those 13 students are and exactly the areas that we need to be working on to move them out of that low category. So again, it arms our teachers with a lot of information. And this is the same thing. This breaks it down and looks at it by the performance area, the goal area. In this particular case, you're looking at word origins, comprehension of a variety of fictional texts, and comprehension of a variety of non-fictional texts. And those are the areas, the strands, that again, it identifies where your kids are and what you can do in terms of moving them. And this particular thing is one chart. Teachers can run that, and if you're setting up your remediation or your enrichment programs, you want to be able to target those where you get the maximum payout. So if I'm working with 10 kids in an after-school program, and I could 5 are performing low in measurement, and 5 are performing low in number sense, I can group them for instruction and impact that a lot more than I can being scattered out. And again, this is simply a tool for teachers that they can go in and they can readily identify where their students are by category and their actual performance. This particular chart here is an overall or a big picture look that basically is an administrative tool. If you look at it, and this is reading for middle school, and basically we're looking at this chart here, and you got 54% of your students are in the pass proficient range, 29% in the pass advanced, and 17 are in the failed basic. What that says is, if we gave the test based on the fall assessment that we just administered, if we gave the test today, this is the performance that we would get. About 83% of these students would pass the reading test or be proficient in it. But the important thing is is that we've got between now and May to work on this 17%. We know exactly who they are, and we hope to see that when we give that winter assessment, that number right there will begin to shrink. And we'll close, and we'll see a lot more blue and a lot more yellow and a lot less maroon or burgundy. Okay. And then this is our challenge. This is truly our challenge. If you look at this is the math. And if you can see, if we gave it today, we're at about 60%. So we know in that 40% what we have to do. You know, it's a huge challenge. Again, we'll talk about some more of the things that we're doing to try and shrink that large piece of the pie graph. Yeah. And again, this is looking at from an elementary perspective. Right now, we look at this particular school, 76%, which again, we can focus on. You don't not focus on these areas, but that 24%, we need to close that gap. That needs to be less. Okay. And then we look at the math, and we're pretty much, again, the same thing. Our challenge in this particular incident, we were at 53%. So we know what it is we have to do. This particular graph here, I know we've had a lot of discussion and some questions in terms of achievement gap. And this is something that we're focusing on, and we're going to be doing more reports. But one of the things that we want to focus on with achievement gap, if you don't let the gap begin, if you close it up from the very beginning, it's less of a problem to you a little bit later. One of the things that we can look at, if you look at this particular graph, this is a second grade. This is involves all of our white students in this particular group. They're in the second grade. They're 28, okay, and their average score on the fall assessment was 173.4. Okay. Now I go to the next slide, which tells me all of our black students in the second grade, 22, 171.6, which is about a 1.4 or 1.8 difference in that fall assessment. And if you look at our Hispanic students, only 10 students, but 177.7. Now, what we want to do with this to not let this get away from us is to, when we do the winter assessment, we go back and we look at those numbers. And if the gap starts to go, that will tell us. Okay, then we can sit down and say, okay, what's happening in this group that's not happening for the other? So getting on the gap early is the way you solve that issue. And you don't let the gap occur. Okay? And you're trying to close that. So this provides us the information, and we're armed with information that we can make solid instructional decisions in terms of what we do for all of our children. And like I said, it's one of the best investments that I think we've made in the years that I've been here. And I think it's armed our teachers and throughout the division and talking with them, they like it because it gives them real data that they can provide to parents, and I think it's going to be have a great impact on our system. I got one more thing that I'd like to show you, and that is, we've shown you all the data. Now, again, the question is, well, what are we going to do about all this? And Ms. Motley's going to share with you real quickly. This is the second component map assessment. It's called Skills Pointer, and I'll let Liz describe Skills Pointer for you.
So once our teachers have looked at their assessment data and figured out the specific strands that students are weak in, they've got to go back and drill down and figure out those skills that the students are actually missing that make up those strands. So to do that, we have Skills Pointer, and a student logs into this website, and the teacher directs the student to choose the correct subject and then the strand that the student is the weakest in. And so,
remember, I pointed out those different strands to you that were identified on those charts. This is where we start to address that.
Right. And so the student takes this other assessment, and it's about 10 to 15 questions. It doesn't take long, but it actually, and it's also an adaptive test, so if you get a question right, it'll take you higher. If you get a question wrong, it'll back down on your levels. And once the student has taken the assessment, they'll have a list of skills, of mastered skills, and also of the, we did have a list of mastered skills that students could click on and see what the actual skills that they had mastered, and they could go in and they had a little bit of extra practice that they could do with those. And they also have a learning path tab. So these are the weaknesses that the kids actually have in those specific strands. So the students can click on their specific learning path, and a tutorial comes up for them to kind of go through and to help them with mastering those skills. And teachers can also access those specific learning paths for students, work with them in small group or one-on-one settings to remediate those specific skills. And when the student goes back in and takes the assessment for that particular skill or strand again, hopefully they will be on the mastered list the next time. So it works out very well.
It was very pretty when we looked at it earlier.
Yeah.
Their sights down.
Court. Now, I noticed it said on there, Common Core state standards, and I know, is that the Common Core that Virginia's not a part of?
We're not part, but they tailored it to meet Virginia standards. But we could also access Common Core if we need to, because they are, again, it's across the country that they work through. But any questions that you might have?
It just seems like from here in this presentation that this program addresses concerns that we've all talked about with state standardized testing that tests one time.
Mm-hmm.
And does not give any indication of growth. This is allowing us to follow growth.
And actually, Dr. Vaught, it's very powerful, and our teachers love it because it allows our teachers, a lot of our teachers are using this information to set their performance goals. And that's important because as a teacher, if I'm a fourth grade teacher and I get a student in my class that's let's say they're performing or reading on a second grade level, and I move that child from August, and I get in May, and I've moved that child to the third year, 8th month. And then they go take the SOL assessment, and they don't pass it. Based on the SOL, it just looks as if you fail. One time, you fail. But with this, I can see, as a teacher, hey, look, that student didn't pass that assessment on that given day, but you moved that student all over a year and a half in terms of student achievement. So we can measure progress and growth. And, again, I think when we use this, the SOLs we'll be fine with that. But it allows us to take that particular case and judge what performance on actual performance as opposed to a one-time test.
I also think it allows us to better evaluate teachers.
Absolutely.
That we're not looking at if you're making progress in class and you've moved that student up.
Absolutely. It allows us to see progress as opposed to a snapshot, one day out of 180.
It also takes away the argument that we've had over the years where teachers say, well, my students are higher functioning or gifted, and my students aren't. And as a principal, I always said, I know who's in your class because I put them there, but I expect to see growth. And just as Mr. mentioned, you'll get a passing score on an SOL test. You don't know if growth occurred at all. And I hope you all are starting to realize that not just with math, but also with Read 180 and SRI, we are starting to use assessments to measure growth throughout the year so that we have progress and we can monitor that closely.
I attended a seminar in Charlottesville, I think, on data and how important that it is. And I'm seeing more and more of this, and I appreciate that very much for everybody involved. I mean, it goes from child all the way up. So.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge, that Dr. Rogers at Sample piloted this for us last year and did a lot of the legwork. Now, we did experience some technical glitches in our fall assessment, which we hope they're going to be able to fix in our winter assessment, which the winter assessment window is November the 20th through December the 11th, and the schools will go in and they'll do their own schedules and then all that information 24 hours after they've taken the assessment, that information is available to us. We can pull it down and look at. We're going to know which students are growing and which ones are staying the same and who might be regressing. And that's powerful information as a teacher for you to have at your disposal, because then you can make better decisions. Because you look at it and you say, what I'm doing isn't working, so if it's not working, do something different. Any other questions?
Lots of school systems using this math program.
You're seeing more and more come on board. Actually, I was supposed to do a presentation with MAP representatives last week in Richmond, but I had to be out for some other things earlier in the week, and so Ms. Noonan did the presentation with our MAP representative, and she actually, I think, ended up doing it herself because the MAP representative got hung up at the airport, and have gotten very good feedback on how, and the MAP personnel themselves have talked, or NWEA personnel have really been impressed with how we've implemented it and with fidelity and the planning that went into it in terms of the teacher training and all that and stuff, and how we've rolled it out. So they're sending people the people are calling us to ask us what we've done.
Well, I think it was a good investment in the system. Frankly saying.
And if you remember, we actually saved money because we made a decision to move this route instead of interactive achievement. And on top of that, we're no longer spending all of our time developing benchmark assessments that are not as valid or reliable because we're not psychometricians or test developers. So the curriculum staff spent a lot of hours and did great work working on those benchmark assessments. But again, it does not give you that adaptive assessment we're talking about. They can really pinpoint where students perform.
And the other thing, I know Ms. Noonan just got back from the testing conference, and one of the things that she's talking about, the state is now starting to talk about an adaptive SOL assessment. So
that's actually on the docket.
So we're ahead. We're kind of a little bit ahead of the game.
Thank you, Mr. House. You can just stay on the floor. You're going to talk about the high school program of studies.
Actually, I think Ms. Strader's going to talk about high school program studies. I'm going to let her do it.
Dr. DeVault and members of the board, as usual, we have our first reading of the high school program of studies. And I just wanted to point out 3 additions to the high school program of studies. And if you would look on page 8, you would see the addition of the Warrior Tech description. The description lets our parents and students know that they will have to apply to be a part of Warrior Tech. And it also lets them know that the coursework will be presented through project-based learning. So we thought that was really pertinent to have that in there to let the students and parents know what Warrior Tech was. If you'll look on page 41, you will see that we're continuing to grow our relationship with Patrick Henry Community College. And we have provided 2 new very exciting opportunities in the program of studies. Our juniors and seniors will be able to take part in an IT academy. And what that means is that they will be transported to PH their junior and senior year, and they will take a series of information technology classes. And then upon graduation, they will have the opportunity to earn an A+ certification as well as a Cisco certification. And we all know that IT jobs are very much available. And with these 2 certifications, or with even one of these certifications, our students will be very marketable in the job world. So we're excited about the IT Academy. And also with Patrick Henry, they've agreed to offer our students the opportunity to take the firefighting EMT course. So once again, juniors and seniors will be transported to PH, and they would have the opportunity to earn the firefighting 1 and 2 certification as well as the EMT certification through the program. So those are 2 very exciting opportunities that will be on the table in addition to the high school program of studies for our students in the county.
Is the automotive is that new?
Actually, it's not new. It is in red, and because of minor changes in the prerequisites. But that is, we do have the motorsports class that we have had for years, And last year they added the auto tech class, and it's just a different level. It's a little bit underneath the motorsports class that students can take.
I always like to point out, because a lot of people don't think we have vocational ed anymore, it's just that we're focusing on careers of today, and this is a good example. Automotive body,
The building trades.
IT, and firefighting, EMT is a great issue.
And the wonderful thing is, you all know that last year we said with all freshmen, they have to have an industry credential in order to graduate if they're seeking a standard diploma. So this will give those students opportunities to earn the credentials they need to also graduate.
I wasn't aware until recently that now students are required to take first aid to graduate. Is that right?
It is for the in the ACE Academy, or in order to earn that associate's degree, they do have to have like a first aid.
But it's not for an advanced diploma.
No, ma'am.
Or were you thinking about CPR?
Maybe it's CPR.
Now our teachers in the recertification cycle.
Teachers are required to take first aid, CPR, and automated external defibrillator training in order to get a teaching license or to renew a teaching license.
And also our students that graduate with the associate's degree are also enrolled in the first aid class.
How will students qualify for admission into the IT program?
Okay, the IT program will have a prerequisite of taking the computer information systems that we offer in our school. And at this point, it's open enrollment. Anyone who tells their guidance counselor that they would like to be a part of the program. And once again, we plan, of course, it being approved. And next month, the program studies being approved, we will have our open houses in January where parents can come out, and we will have representation from Patrick Henry Community College at both high schools promoting the firefighting, EMT, and Microsoft. I keep saying Microsoft, the IT Academy.
You'll also notice that we've been spending a lot of time introducing students to college and career options. All of our 7th graders, and how it ties into the middle school program of studies, visited Patrick Henry Community College. We've also had the STEM Day, which I know many of you read about. We have students participate, but what's so important is to get students introduced very early to these opportunities, because we want them to plan for those. And what I liked about it was students were so excited about the visit to Patrick Henry when I went to Laurel Park a couple weeks ago, and they actually were telling me what careers they want to pursue in 7th grade. So it's exciting to hear students thinking about that and talking about that early.
If students are taking one or other of these courses at Patrick Henry, they're leaving our 2 high schools and going there, how does that affect the schedule at school?
Basically, the way that runs is, as it has in the past, the students are transported over. They check into school in the mornings at our locations, Vassar, Magna Vista, and they're transported by bus to Patrick Henry for first and second block. So it's their elective blocks that they are giving up to take these classes. And they still, as juniors and seniors, have more electives that they can take.
And Mr. when Dr. Cotton was talking about the students getting excited, that was the plan.
That was the plan.
This is obviously a great advantage to our students to be able to do this, but I'm thinking it's also an advantage to Patrick Henry.
It is.
Because they can count these as part-time students towards their total enrollment.
And it once again grows our partnership with Patrick Henry Community College. We're very fortunate.
Any questions about this? This is the first reading of the presentation of this program. This will be available to students by what time?
If it's approved next month, then we will print it immediately, and it'll be mailed to the students' homes. They will receive it during the winter break or the 1st of January.
I'd also like to point out that the cover was designed by...
Next month, when we do the art recognition, Bassett High School graphic design student Olivia Mitchum designed the cover. Of course, we don't put a lot of parameters on the design, and so then we turn to our resident graphic artist, Mrs. Noonan, to help us with the program studies as far as putting our logo on there and the title. She is going to add. She's already done a little tweaking, but Olivia Mitchum is the concept design and has done most of the work. So Ms. Noonan will tweak it some more, and you'll see the final draft next month.
That's very nice.
She did a really good job.
Okay, I guess we can move on to the first reading of the middle school program.
Okay, and with the middle school program of studies, of course, we're going to use the same cover, and there are actually no changes to the content. There are a few editorial changes to the middle school program of studies. I would like to point out, as Dr. Cotton mentioned, that our 7th grade students, we are spending a lot of time with the academic and career plan and trying to make sure our middle school students, if you remember the presentation on the wizard, that they are aware of opportunities out there, that they do understand local opportunities. So our last 7th grade tour of Patrick Henry Community College will be this Friday. So if anybody's available and you want to join us on the tour at Patrick Henry, you can just let me know and I'll give you the details.
Okay, any other questions or comments on either of these two? These are for first reading, so we won't be voting on those. We'll vote on them next month.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the action agenda. The first item under that section, consideration of the resolution concerning high-stakes standardized testing Virginia public school students. Dr. Cotton, you're going to kind of address that and bring us up to speed.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I did want to bring this to the board for consideration. I know you have heard that other school divisions are making decisions about this potential resolution as well that relates to really an overhaul in standardized testing in Virginia's public schools. And I know I attached a copy of the resolution, and do you think it would be appropriate to read?
I think maybe go ahead and read it.
I think for the record, I'll read it, and I apologize. It's a little lengthy, but hopefully it'll resonate with some of these concepts. All right, whereas the over-reliance on standardized high-stakes testing as the only assessment of learning that really matters in the state and federal accountability systems is straining our public schools and undermining any chance that educators have to transform a traditional system of schooling into a broad range of learning experiences that better prepares our students to live successfully, be competitive on a global stage, and whereas there is little research upon which to base the state's assumption that by taking and passing 34 criteria and reference tests between grades 3 and 11, Virginia students will be better prepared to succeed in careers in college. And whereas we believe our state's future prosperity relies on a quality education system that prepares students for college and careers, and without such a system, Virginia's economic competitiveness and ability to attract new business will falter. And whereas there is little research verifying Virginia's method of applying criteria and reference test results as valid and reliable measurements of authentic growth and student achievement, and whereas there is little research verifying Virginia's method of measuring student growth as a valid and reliable indicator of teacher, principal, and superintendent performance, and whereas the system that Virginia employs for high-stakes education accountability at both the state and federal level is based on the state's method of configuring criteria and reference standardized tests, growth measures, and performance indicators, all of which lack any solid research foundation. And whereas the real work of designing more engaging student learning experiences requires changes in the culture and structure of the systems in which teachers and students work. And whereas what occurs in our classrooms every day should be student-centered and result in students learning at a deep and meaningful level, as opposed to the superficial level of learning that results from the current overemphasis on that which can be easily tested by standardized tests. And whereas we believe that a balanced system of assessments that provide a more comprehensive analysis of student learning and growth is far better in defining achievement than using snapshots of student performance on criteria and reference tests. And whereas our vision is for all students to be engaged in more meaningful learning activities that cultivate their unique individual talents, to provide options for students that are designed to respect how they learn best, and to embrace the concept that students can be both consumers and creators of knowledge. And whereas only by developing new capacities and conditions in divisions and schools and the communities in which they are embedded will we ensure that all learning spaces foster and celebrate innovation, creativity, problem-solving, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. And whereas these are the very skills that business leaders desire in a rising workforce, and the very attitudes that are essential to the survival of our democracy. And whereas imposing relentless test preparation and boring memorization of facts to enhance And whereas we do not oppose accountability in public schools and point with pride to the stellar performance of our students, but believe that the system of the past will not prepare our students to lead in the future, and neither will the standardized tests that so dominate their instructional time and block our ability to make progress toward a world-class education system, student-centered schools, and future-ready students. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Henry County Schools calls on the Virginia General Assembly to re-examine Virginia Public School assessments and the system of accountability for which they form the basis, and to improve the current accountability system so that it encompasses balanced assessments, reflects greater validity, uses more cost-efficient sampling techniques and other external evaluation arrangements, allows for expedited test retakes, and more accurately reflects what students know, appreciate, and can do in terms of the rigorous standards essential to their success, enhances the role of teachers as designers, guides to instruction and leaders, and nurtures a sense of inquiry and love of learning in all students. So there you go. And I will tell you that BASS has been working, the superintendent group has been working to come up with some recommended changes. Just as an FYI, I've been nominated to serve on this statewide committee to represent Region 6. No pressure, but I'm going to be involved in that moving forward. So I did want to at least put this before the board for you to consider whether or not you want to support this or not. So I leave it to the board to decide how you want to pursue.
In this effort, are you also coordinating with BSBA?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. BSBA and several other organizations, Virginia PTA, VASCD, which is the curriculum association. We also have elementary principals and secondary principals involved as well.
This does go along with the SBA's legislative
Mr. Chairman, I would just say a flat amen to the resolution, and I move that we approve the resolution, send it to the appropriate officials and the new governor and all our elected delegates and state senators.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded that our board go on record supporting this resolution. Any additional questions, comments?
Just in the last month or so, listening to political debates and stuff like that, I realized that most of our legislators have no idea what it's all about.
They don't even know how many tests.
It was a shock at our meeting in Charlottesville recently when someone mentioned some of the members of the panel who were legislators
Who serve on the
who
education.
serve on the education committee were shocked at the number of
Their kids take 34 standards.
that they had said we had to implement.
And when you talk
But we
to,
need to educate them. I mean, we need to have a dialogue.
when you meet with other folks from other states, they don't have anywhere near the number of assessments. And also, you heard me say criterion reference, and that's important because what we're talking about is growth. You heard us talk about growth measures and how important those are.
It's
And
important for kids and parents to see that, okay, maybe you didn't pass that SBO, which we want them to pass, but look at the growth of your child.
I'm glad this resolution kind of ends there. We're not opposed to testing.
Right.
We're just in favor of tests that convey some meaning back to the classroom teacher as to what's happening, as opposed to on this day, at this time, on this test, this child did this.
I'm excited to see what we have in place for measuring and how it's proving to be effective so far. But I have two granddaughters in the Wake County school system, and we still behind.
as a state. And that's why, as a school division, we're forced to go above and beyond what's expected. As you heard, we don't believe that we can continue to just rely on the state testing program. The other thing that we're finding is that, as you heard, innovation is really suffering. When we talk to businesses in our community, we talk to educational leaders in our community, they keep saying what skills we need for students to be successful. And frankly, teachers are stifled because they are trying so hard to get students to pass these state tests.
And hopefully that's what the whole Warrior Tech program is addressing, some of that same issue.
Exactly, and Warrior Tech is a great model of what we're talking about, but again, those students are going to take SOL tests, just like every other student will. But what I'm encouraged by is the Warrior Tech facilitators, we call them instead of teachers, they've already given the same assessments they've given in the past to traditional classes, and their Warrior Tech students are outperforming the students that have taken assessments in the past. So, but the struggle we have is teachers don't believe that if you teach this way, the tests will take care of themselves. There's a fear that if you are innovative and creative with your approach, that the tests will falter. So we're having to work on helping them believe that that's possible.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Those in favor of the stated motion signify by raising your right hand. We'll move to approval of purchase replacement desktop computers for FC Middle School grade.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm substituting for Ms. Copenhagen today. But this is in concert with our replacement cycle, and it also coordinates, Ms. Copenhagen coordinates with Ms. Strayer in terms of CTE funding as well as local funding to keep these labs updated and in terms of the purchase cycle in terms of updating these computers. And this particular group will be at FC Middle School, and its fiscal amount or impact is about $20,500, and it's within technology budget, and recommend your approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any questions, discussion?
I just like the last sentence at the back of it where it said the computers being replaced will be used by students for word processing, so we're not really just going our way, we're still continuing using.
And we are keeping in line with our replacement cycles, are we doing that?
Yes, Ms. Copenhagen handles the replacement cycle.
Okay, any additional questions, comments? If not, those in favor of the stated motion signify by raising your right hand. Next item also.
Okay, this will be updating the local area network at FC, upgrading that with switches and so forth to get it up to speed. And also, as I talk with her, they'll be updating other areas as funding is available and moved up. But this is the area that is currently that needs the updating the most, and it's an amount of $32,000, and it's out of the 2014 technology budget, and it's reimbursable funding.
I move that we approve, especially like Mr. Miller says, that it's reimbursable.
Second.
Any other questions, concerns? Those in favor of the stated motion signify by raising your right hand. Next item under the action agenda, approval of appointments to the Sick Leave Bank Advisory Board. Ms. Landman?
Morning, Dr. Vault, members of the board. If you remember, in June 2004, a meeting of the school board, the board approved the establishment of a sick leave bank for our full-time licensed employees. And at that time, you also approved a sick leave bank advisory committee comprised of 7 members to serve and give guidance to that sick leave bank. I come to you today to recommend 7 individuals that should serve as the sick leave bank advisory members for 2013-2014. We have from central office, Sandy Strayer, elementary teacher rep, Janelle Brown, middle school teacher representative, James Grandinetti, elementary principal, Patty Walmsley, Secondary Principal Gracie Agnew, Superintendent's Designee Christy Landon, and HCA representative will be appointed at a later date. I recommend that you approve this advisory board.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Not those in favor of this motion,
Thank you.
I have a question that doesn't pertain to this, but still pertains to sick leave. Do we have any type of situation for our non-licensed people? One of my concerns is our cafeteria employees, due to the hours that they work and the low pay they get, it seems to be that most of our employees are more elderly, and there's quite a bit of sickness. Do we ever consider them when we consider sick leave?
As far as the sick leave bank, no, so the sick leave bank as it is established at this point is just for our licensed employees.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, I'm asking more or less about the Cotton. Have we considered those people? Because there's quite a bit of absenteeism. They're still required to do quite a bit of work. And, you know, you cannot do quality work unless you have quality doing the work.
Right.
And you have people that are out quite a bit, and you have substitutes and things of this nature.
I'm not aware of any sick leave situation with our part-time employees.
We can talk about it. We haven't talked about that recently. We can certainly pull together.
We can look at it and see.
And see if we answer your question.
What I'd be concerned with is the amount of time that they're out, and what effect does this have on the overall operation? And is there any way to remedy this?
Okay. We can investigate that.
And then, I mean, I'm sure you'll look into it. There are certain definitions that are exempt for an hourly employee that have implications.
It does. That'll be something we can certainly look into and report back to you. As far as numbers and the number of employees that we have in that situation, that's certainly something that we can bring back.
And my number one concern is the overall effects it has on operation, smooth operation of it.
We can look at absenteeism as well and see. But we can get you some information on that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Move to item 7 under the agenda, superintendent's report.
Mr. Chairman, I have some great highlights to share with you for October. We've had a busy month. The first item, access is the key. Stanleytown Elementary celebrated deaf awareness in October. Access to the world around us is so important for hearing and deaf students. Access covers knowing what to do during a lockdown drill, using a flashing fire alarm, or utilizing hearing aids, BAHAs, not sure what those are, and cochlear implants. It includes the use of FM technology in the classroom and the use of interpreters, from watching captioned videos and shows to texting messages to friends, parents, or teachers, to video phoning or parent access to key communication. During the month of October, I just wanted to highlight that our school division celebrated disability awareness with a tweet each day on our Henry County Twitter feed, and this is just one of the tweets that we shared during that month-long awareness campaign. Fall games, Rich Acres Elementary School ID and ECSE classes recently participated in the Special Education Fall Games. Rich Acres won the Spirit Award for the 3rd year in a row and received a trophy to display at the school. Fall Games equals fun for all. Everyone was a winner during the annual Special Education Fall Games. Students at Stanleytown Elementary participated and brought home medals and ribbons to prove that they are truly special athletes. Students learned about fire safety. For Fire Prevention Week, Campbell Corp students and parents were treated to a fire safety demonstration put on by the Bassett Volunteer Fire Department. The firefighters brought their fire engine and let the children observe what it is and what they do for putting out fires. Fire safety rules were discussed with the audience as well, and the students were then allowed to explore inside the fire engine, probably the most exciting part. Pumpkin carving and season safety. Collinsville primary first graders recently had special guest visitors. The Henry County Sheriff's Department officers officers inform students about safety tips for this season. Students ask questions and help the officers prepare the class pumpkin for the carving. The students chose the image for the carving, and officers carved the pumpkins. Giant pink ribbons. Several schools participated in activities to encourage breast cancer awareness. Axton Elementary created a giant pink ribbon. Each Friday in October, students and staff wore pink. One of those Fridays, everyone met out on the blacktop to form the giant ribbon seen here. Jane Phillips Day. We fight like Mrs. Phillips was the motto for the pink-clad students at Rich Acres Elementary School on October 15th. Students and teachers created a breast cancer awareness ribbon in memory of the late Jane Phillips, a former reading assistant at the school, who fought a long and gracious battle with cancer. Students continued the fight by raising over $2,000 for the American Cancer Society. And are you aware? Collinsville primary faculty and staff collaborated with several support efforts to promote awareness. Faculty and staff pinked out to show support for breast cancer awareness. Money was collected to support this initiative. Stanleytown Elementary is in the pink. Stanleytown students sponsored a parade of pink, as students and staff are encouraged to wear pink each Friday in October to show awareness and support for ongoing cancer research. Firefighters reached the students. Firefighters from the Bassett Volunteer Fire Department came to Campbellport to participate in family night. The firefighters read a story to children that focused on educating students about the jobs firefighters perform and how they keep our community safe. Over 300 parents and students attended the event. And second graders read to kindergarten classes. At Campbellport, Mrs. Reynolds' second grade class read the story to all of the kindergarten classes. The story involved a cast of characters that were played by the second grade students who even sang songs to the groups. The kindergartners were entertained while the second grade students modeled how to read with inflection, as well as showing how much fun reading can be. Clocked in for reading. For September's homework, Mrs. Hairston's third grade period Read 180 class at Laurel Park Middle School read a total of 4,120 minutes to beat out her other 5 classes. The Read 180 cake pops were created as a reward for the class that clocked in the most minutes. Football players and cheerleaders take reading on the road. Magna Vista football players and cheerleaders spent Fridays during the season reading to elementary students. Not only was it a way to help younger students with their reading skills, but it fostered school spirit among the feeder elementary schools. Varsity cheerleader Sarah Denton posed with Mount Olivet Elementary School first graders after reading to them. Reading is fun at any age. Readers from the Outreach Education Program at New College Institute recently came to share their favorite storybooks with kindergarten students at Stanleytown. Right on. Children's book author and former Collinsville resident Gail Hedrick recently visited Stanleytown Elementary 5th graders. For 6 weeks leading up to the event, students read her book, Something Stinks, a science mystery novel. Glad that was clarified. During her visit, she discussed the writing process and encouraged students to be on the lookout for what it is all about and moments that can lead to a great story and a possible career in writing. Character Carousel. After reading the novel Island of the Blue Dolphins, 5th graders at John Red Elementary participated in the Character Carousel. Students had to describe characters using direct quotes from the novel. Book Retreat. Axton Elementary hosted Book Retreat recently. Each grade level decorated pumpkins to represent books and gave out candy. Students were asked to dress as book characters. They were treated with candy from each grade level and a free book from reading specialist Amy Hooper. 5th grade came in first place with their Wizard of Oz display, and kindergarten came in second place with the 3 little pigs. Pumpkin globes. The ELL department at Axton Elementary has been hard at work turning pumpkins into globes. Students had to read and follow directions to complete their globes. ELL teacher Chelsea Rogers said that she purposely integrated reading, social studies, and art to create a fun, real-life experience. The skill of reading instructions to complete a task will be used in the future when students have to read instruction manuals as adults, or some of us don't read those. Students collaborate to create a digital story. As Drew Mason, first grade chefs and 5th grade writers collaborate in the library to create a digital story on the iPad 2. Students had the opportunity to share stories with their parents at the October PTA meeting. Creating pasta jewelry. Students in Mrs. McKinney's kindergarten class at Drew Mason Elementary were given 3 different types of pasta and asked to make pasta pattern necklaces. After necklaces were made, students shared their necklaces with the class and charted how many AB, AAB, ABC, and ABB patterns they had created. Students then took a class picture to show off their positive pattern jewelry. Pictionary review. Fourth graders at John Red Smith and Miss Jones' science class have been learning about force, energy, and friction. As a review, the students took part in a Pictionary-style review. Students were randomly chosen to come forward and draw a picture depicting vocabulary words. Groups worked together to decide what they thought the student was showing. Using the Show Me app, they displayed their answers. The person drawing indicated their intention with a picture and which words they thought they were depicting. Students participate in human anatomy dissections. Teachers Kathy Jones and Joel Bunn collaborated with Dr. Chris Aylesworth of Ferrum College to develop a plan allowing health science and AP biology students from Magna Vista High School to join an anatomy lab lesson. The students examining the human muscle system participated in the lesson with real cadavers. In order to facilitate a small group experience, students rotated through 2 other stations, including a tour of the Ferrum campus and a series of hands-on problem-solving disease control activities. French students learned culture through cooking. 45 French students from Magna Vista brought their study of culture to French club meeting by preparing crepes for the school after school. Karen Knopf, instructor, helped students prepare batter, which they then filled with various ingredients, including strawberries, chocolate, and whipped cream. French Club is an extracurricular extension of the language classroom. Tyler Morris shows his beautiful creation before sampling the delectable dessert here in the picture. Students see PAA performance of Sleepy Hollow. All students in Mount Olivet saw the Piedmont Arts Association performance of Sleepy Hollow. Students and staff enjoyed the performance, and they all managed to keep their hits. Crowd interacts with whodunit cast. Magna Vista theater players put on a whodunit murder mystery theater, written and directed by theater director Brian Dunn. The murder mystery was an interactive show with many characters interacting with the dinner guests throughout the show. Pictured here, Craig Watson, played by Corey Thompson, and Gloria Watson, played by Lacey Staples, interact with dinner guests enjoying the show. Career Days. Daphne Bullock, the guidance counselor at Axton Elementary, has organized a career day for the last Friday of every month. So far, nurses, police officers, and a police captain have visited the students during the lunch period. At lunch, the professionals mingle with students to talk about what they aspire to be when they become adults and attend college. They're looking forward to who's going to visit next. Stanleytown Elementary, today, college tomorrow. Stanleytown 5th grade students, the class of 2021, are already looking to their future beyond high school. Research of colleges led to creating a bulletin board to spotlight schools attended by Stanleytown staff. They also visited Averett University to tour the campus and participated in a group discussion focused on how good work habits developed in elementary school can lead to their own big dreams and bold futures. Patrick Henry presents career pathways to 7th graders. We've already talked about how students have attended Patrick Henry as 7th grade students, and here we see some students from Laurel Park who participated in that experience. Stanleytown Elementary students celebrate Red Ribbon Week, and here you see a picture of students chanting the slogan, "We rule, we are a bully and drug-free school." 5th grade family Lego night at Sandville. Families participate in Lego builds about their goals in life, their pet peeves, and the qualities they appreciate about each other. Activities like these allow students to demonstrate the 4 C's, in this case, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. Fall Festival, students, parents, and faculty enjoyed their Saturday by spending time at Collinsville Primary Fall Festival. There were lots of games, vendors, and exhibits to see. Special thanks for the people who helped put this together, especially the Bassett High School football players and cheerleaders. Hispanic Pep Celebration. Collinsville Primary John Red and Carver joined to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month with their ELL families. During the PEP at Collinsville Primary, the ELL team presented a PowerPoint on rules and procedures, and they also sang cultural songs, danced, and looks like they had some good food too. Faculty and staff support our troops. College guide Christina Mataliano headed the drive among Magna Vista faculty and staff to collect donations and support the troops in Afghanistan and Kuwait. The drive was a collaborative partnership between the Virginia College Advising Corps, American groups and Virginia State programs and Red Cross service. Over 300 items were donated by the school. And then Beta Parents Work for Charity. We have some of our Beta parents who are assisting here at a football game to help with charity and fundraising. And then finally, Healthy Environment Council Primary started a recycling program headed by the guidance of Mr. Philip Berg, who's the guidance counselor there. I do want to share some congratulations. First of all, Magna Vista Band, the Marching Warriors. The band receives excellent ratings and awards under the direction of band director Timothy Logan. The band competed in 5 band competitions this season, receiving excellent ratings in all of them. Drum major Andrew Lynch received first place in the AA drum major competition at North Forsyth High School. Color Guard won first place. Awards at drums on the Blue Ridge and North Forsyth. The band received first in music at McMichael and 3 second-place awards in overall bands at Bassett, Franklin County, and Pulaski County. Overall, the band placed either second or third in all other categories for most competitions: percussion, general effect, music, and marching. And other staff who support the band are Brittany Bocock and Christina Monteliano. And I'm just proud to see that the band program is developing at Magna Vista. Magna Vista JROTC Raiders dominate the competition, which we've become accustomed to, and the Warrior JROTC Raiders' first meet of the year, Raider Commander Cadet First Sergeant Mike Short and Senior Cadet Second Lieutenant Dustin Ramsey led the team to 4 first-place finishes and a second-place finish to bring home another overall championship. There were 12 teams from North Carolina and Virginia competing at North Iredell High School in North Carolina. In the photo, you see kneeling to the left, Dustin Ramsey, Scout Custer, Mike Short, Ryan Lacey, standing left to right, Philip Eaton, Alex Tillman, Quentin Tedder, John Silva, Travis Matthews, and Paredes. I don't know if I said that right. And the drama team advances to the regionals. Magna Vista hosted the Conference 31 Virginia High School League Theater Competition. The Magna Vista drama team performed The Cards of Fate by Virginia playwright Ed Monk, a game show where contestants control people's destinies by winning cash and prizes. The team placed as a runner-up and will head to regionals next month, also hosted by Magna Vista. And those are the congratulations. And Board, thank you for indulging me on. We had a lot going on in October, and I wanted to make you aware. I had trouble cutting some of those, but I do want you to know all the great things that are going on in our school division. I also want to point out how we link those to our strategies and our strategic plan, because a lot of times we're not aware of all the good things going on in our schools.
And I know that we recognize them in the future, but the Bassett family also did.
Yes, I was going to say, and I was going to slip that in, but that actually happened in November. But we will be recognizing the Bassett band. We've got some very good news that they won their 7th consecutive state title, so we'll be looking forward to celebrating that next month.
And it's so good to see the Magna Vista band doing well.
Mr. Chairman, I have other items that I'll be glad to answer questions. If there's any questions from the board, I just want to point out that we, for information, CTE report in there for your review. But if there are any questions about any other items, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions on any other items in that section of our agenda? If not, we move on to Section 8, matters from the board.
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, a couple of weeks ago I visited one of our schools, and I particularly visited the cafeteria when one of the lady teachers wanted to know if I could sit there and listen to her for a few minutes. And she asked me to relay her story to the entire school. She said she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. She had surgery and a big radiation, and everything is fine. And the bill was like $150,000, and all she had to pay, co-pay or out of pocket, was $3,000. And she said, thank the Lord, we have excellent health insurance. And if she would have had her husband's policy, she would have had to pay $15,000 out of pocket, which would have caused a heart attack. And she realizes that sometimes we can't get raises, but asks us to continue to pay the single subscriber rate, which some school systems do not pay off that, and we do. And I think in the surveys, Dr. Cotton, that the teachers have been
surveys, but I will tell you that during my advisory group meetings, that has come out very clear that they want us to keep our benefits the way that they are.
Other mentions? In, two things. In visiting schools and also in watching a program on TV about eye testing that the Lions was conducting, I see our children with these handheld instruments getting closer and things like this. And I wonder the effect it has on our students. And I wonder if we have given the thought or consideration to perhaps testing our children's eyes, or we noticed any problems there.
We haven't talked about that. We do general screenings in our schools that we do as a part of our annual process that we do. But are you asking if we've done any linkages between the iPads and iPad? We haven't.
I know, for example, personally, I've worn glasses all my life, ever since I was 10 or 12. And when I started playing around with computers, I wore bifocals. When I started playing around with computers, I had to get trifocals.
That's called getting old.
But I get more and more concerned when I see a child with holding one of those devices up this close, just reading stuff like that. The long-term effect that it may have on the child.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any studies or any concerns related to that I'm aware of. But part of what we do with the students too is we have to help them. There's lots of ways that they can use technology that would alleviate some of that. They can enlarge the text and they can do certain things like that. But I'm not aware of any studies that indicate that using the electronic devices leads to eye strain any more than reading small print or books or anything like that.
I'm more concerned about hearing because of earbuds and things like that.
And I know that there have been studies on video games related to some of those kinds of things, but not so much eyesight that I've seen. It's been more attention span and some of those kinds of things. But have you seen any studies related to that?
No, but that program on TV about the Lions Club conducting this testing students' eyes up in the hall. One rate at any time of study going on, or anyone else noticed that?
I'm not aware of one, and I think the other thing would be interesting is if we have an increase in students requiring glasses or things like that. But I haven't been made aware of anything like that.
And something else a little different. The American Legion for a number of years have been conducting classes, presentations on the American flag, and they were averaging probably about 5 or 6 per year. And the past 2 years we have not received any presentation, but I want to let everybody know that the American Legion is still available for that. And in attending sporting events, I see that we need more and more students need to be more aware of the flag and the part it plays in our life and our history, and that the American Legion is available for that.
Are those free of charge?
Free of charge, and primarily for elementary students. In the past, I know a number of schools, the American Legion came in and gave a class to the students that were responsible for raising the Northern flag. They didn't know how to hold the flag properly, thanks to this man. And maybe I shouldn't mention this, but we went into one school and noticed the flag, and it had been displayed improperly ever since it started. No one was aware that it was.
That wasn't in Henry County, but
I was going to mention that.
it's been taken care of, I hope.
Oh, that was taken care of then.
Good.
Any other comments? Under reminder of dates, those are listed in your agenda. Just please note those. Specifically note that our December meeting is meeting, and it's December the 12th, as opposed to the first Thursday, it's the second Thursday, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And it is a 6 o'clock meeting here at the County Administration Building. Under the conferences, I think is aware of the SBA conference in Williamsburg coming up later this month, and if there are board members who wish to attend the NSBA annual convention in New Orleans in the spring, I'm sure some of you would like to know if it's possible, so that those arrangements can be made. Item 10 on our agenda is a work session. We're going to be discussing the recruitment efforts to increase our staff diversity. We're going to adjourn up to the board meeting room on the 3rd floor. That is not part of the closed session, so anyone is welcome to attend that. We'll be in the board room on the 3rd floor at this time. Okay.
Will we need our computers?
Yes, sir.
Now that we're being recorded, we can get started. Item 10, work session dealing with recruitment efforts to increase staff diversity. If you recall, you had some questions and concerns, and the staff has working up a presentation, which would kind of bring us up to date on specific. Okay, you remember?
You're going to pull up her PowerPoint?
Yeah.
All right, as they're pulling the PowerPoint up, we have looked at efforts that we already have in place, and we've been looking at data that we had available. And one of the things that Christy will point out is we have been capturing some of the data that we will moving forward. And specifically, what I hope to do is pull some application, some data from applicants, demographic data. We haven't captured that for all staff in the past, and Mrs. Lane will tell you a little bit more about that when she starts, but which hopefully will be soon. But waiting on the technology. But
we're having problems to put the PowerPoint. Can you go grab a mic?
But I'll give you an example. With teachers, we haven't been capturing demographic data, and when they apply, and even if we do, they don't have to designate any demographic data, but what's most important is we don't want any demographic data to show up on an application at all, and that's part of our process. When we go through applications, we have no indication of demographics. We just look at their qualifications and so forth as it should be, but we've discovered there's a way that we could still capture that information, not make it visible to the folks who are doing the interviewing, and we could capture some of that. And the reason that's important is because I want to paint a picture for you that for some of our positions, our applicant pool is not very diverse. So obviously we've got some work to do in encouraging a more diverse pool of applicants. But one of the other things that we'll see is Mrs. Landon is going to share some statewide data as well that I think may be a little surprising for some of you. Do we need to? Do we have to record this, or can we just do the?
I think it's the PowerPoint.
Yeah, we're having problems with this computer. Alex is grabbing a laptop. Just need a couple of minutes.
You have the PowerPoint in front of you?
I do.
Why don't you start presenting and catch up?
Okay. Well, thank you for your time this morning. I did, as Dr. Cotton talked about, I did want to share with you, first of all, what we are already doing, what our current recruiting efforts are, talk a little bit about diversity, show you some statistics both on a national level as well as a state level, and then show you some of the areas we've identified where we might be able to, we hope, that we will be able to increase the diversity within our workforce. As you're all aware, we do have Envision 2018, our 5-year strategic plan. And within that plan, one of the 6 strategies that the school system has focused on is that Henry County Public Schools will be directed by 21st century, high qualified 21st century professionals. So we're already focused on that. We just need to be able to focus more diligently on how we can find more qualified candidates and more diverse candidates. Some of the things that we already have in place, the Human Resources team did last year put together an HR recruiting team, and that recruiting team consists not only of human resources professionals, but also of administrators from all levels within our organization. So it included principals and administrators from elementary, middle school, and high school, so that when the teams did go out to recruiting fairs, there were some diverse backgrounds and people within who represented different parts of the school system who could go out and meet with applicants and represent Henry County and speak for us at a variety of job fairs throughout the year. Historically, Henry County Schools has attended a number of job fairs. Most often, those job fairs have been located in fairly close proximity to Henry County, and the reason for that is as you know, we have limited budgets, so especially if we have a recruiting team of people, more than one person who is attending and trying to meet with applicants and candidates, it would get rather expensive if there were overnight travel involved. So the job fairs and career fairs that we have attended in the past have been identified in close proximity with colleges and universities that do have teacher preparation programs, as well as with other education-related jobs and career fairs. So some of the ones that we have historically attended included Longwood College, North Carolina A&T State University, Radford at their education fair, the Tri-College Education Fair, which includes Lynchburg, Randolph, and Sweetbriar colleges, the Virginia Association of School Personnel Administrators. The WebTech Job Fair is a big one that stands for Western Virginia Public Education Consortium, and that's a 2-day job fair that's held in Salem every year, as well as Winston-Salem State University. Those were the ones that, for the past couple of years, were the main ones that we have participated in. In addition, the recruiting team did put together new recruiting materials last year. Most of you were present when we had our strategic planning update back in July at Chapmoss, and some of the things that we showed you there were the display boards that had been developed, as well as the handouts that had been developed that really focused on Henry County, our area, Martinsville, what a great community this is to live in and to raise a family, some of the local area attractions, as well as some of the really great things that Henry County Schools is doing. From an online recruiting standpoint, we do currently use as our main online recruiting tool the Henry County Public Schools website. Through the website, we do have a paid program. It's an applicant tracking and hiring management system called Talent Ed Recruit and Hire. That is a system that many school systems use throughout the United States that does focus mainly on education, so it is geared towards education. And then for harder to recruit or harder to fill positions, we also use a website called teachers.com, and mainly we use that one because it's a national service. It is well known among teachers and it's free. So that's one of the reasons that we have used that one. We do have an interviewing process that all of our administrators are familiar with. That interviewing process includes administrators reviewing applications, and they actually go through and prioritize the applications themselves. They schedule interviews, and they develop a panel interview team to interview the applicants. They then make selections. That selection comes to Human Resources. We check references, and then we make the job offer. Each principal does have an interview toolkit. I'm sorry. Didn't know I put it up. Is this on?
Yeah, it's on the side.
When you scroll from the side.
Yeah, just scroll.
Now, Okay. So,
Okay. Okay, we're on interviewing process right now, Taylor. So each principal does have a principal's interview toolkit, and the toolkit provides them with resources to make sure that they are going through the process appropriately. It provides them with interview guidelines, interview questions, evaluation forms, as well as an overview of employment law to make sure that they are doing legal interviewing, selection, and hiring. So let's talk for a moment about diversity. Diversity is the collective mixture of differences and similarities that includes individual and organizational characteristics, values, beliefs, experiences, backgrounds, preferences, and behaviors. And having diversity in the workplace means recognizing and understanding, encouraging, and valuing those differences among people, and using them to the organization's advantage by capitalizing on strengths that are found in individual differences. Henry County Schools would like more diversity in its workplace, particularly among our teachers. So let's talk about what the challenges are to being able to achieve more diversity. We have several different charts and graphs, and I understand that the numbers are a little bit small and difficult to see. But what you have here on this one, these are education degrees that were conferred by race and ethnicity on a national level in the 2010-2011 academic year to students. And as you can see, the bachelor's degrees are indicated in the red bars, the master's degrees in the black bars. And unfortunately, what we see among this, and this was put out by the U.S. Department of Education, but what you see among this is that in that year, which was basically representative because they did put out data that went way back and up to the present. But among bachelor's degrees in the 2010-11 academic year, 82% of the bachelor's degrees conferred were to whites. During that same school year, 7% to African Americans, 6% to Hispanics, and all of the other races and ethnic backgrounds that you see were 2% or less, down to almost close to zero. Master's degrees, a little bit different, but not a lot of difference there. 76% of the master's degrees went to whites, whereas 11% went to African Americans, 7% to Hispanics, 3% to Asians, and then everything below that was much less significant. So as we see, our pool of diversity of people who are obtaining degrees in education, there's not a lot of diversity here. Something else that we've discussed is the fact that we'd like to have more males within our staff, that we don't have a lot of male teachers, we don't have a lot of male principals in comparison to females. This will show you somewhat of the reason why. This also is information that came from the U.S. Department of Education for the same year by level of degree and gender of student. You see a little bit more of the higher level degrees, masters and doctorates, which were conferred to males, but if you see that the purple represents females, the green bars represent males, basically 4 out of 5 are going to females versus males. So now we're looking at the state level, and the data that they put out is not really apples to apples, so I'll tell you what the difference is here. Now we're looking at race and ethnicity of Virginia public schools, and this was data that was put out by the Virginia Department of Education for the same year, 2010-2011. What it actually shows is the blue bars represent our student population, and the yellow bars represent our faculty, and this excludes principals and assistant principals. So mainly you're focusing on teaching faculty here, and what you can see is that faculty throughout the entire state of Virginia, 83.4% during that school year were white. And although you go to the next largest group, African American students represented 24% of the Virginia demographics, but only about half of that were represented by African American teachers. And it goes down from there. And this is also data for Virginia, which basically mirrors what we saw on a national level between males and females. Again, 4 out of 5 are females. Now, in addition to what the sheer numbers are, states are accountable for implementing No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. That is a federal regulation that does require, among other things, the goal of 100% highly qualified teachers in core academic subjects. The core subjects include English, reading or language arts, mathematics, science, foreign languages, civics and government, economics, arts, history, and geography. And under this, when it refers to highly qualified, what highly qualified means is that it requires the teacher to hold a Virginia state license and endorsements in each of the core subjects that he or she teaches. So, you know, as Dr. Cotton referenced, well, I'm not sure he referenced this part of it, but in many cases, we don't have a lot of people applying for jobs. And when we look at the people who are applying, it looks like more than what that candidate pool is, because when we dig into the applications, we often find, you know, we have people say, well, why didn't you hire this person? They're a really good person. Well, first of all, they have to have a teaching license for us to hire them. And secondly, they have to have a teaching license with endorsements in the subjects that they're teaching. So, for example, if they are teaching in middle school, where, you know, we all feel good, I think, about the fact that we have moved back to a true team teaching concept there, but that means that most teachers have to teach more than one subject, and they have to be endorsed in each of the subjects that they teach. So it becomes more and more difficult, and when you hire a teacher, even if you go to someone who's just graduated, if they don't have a teaching license yet, in the state of Virginia, you cannot use public funds to pay someone who is not a licensed teacher. So, you know, you get into a situation where you either can't hire them, or best case scenario is that you hire them as a substitute teacher to start out. You're not able to hire them to actually go into the classroom. And this, again, is from the Department of Education. So the bottom line is that we want a much more diverse workforce than we currently have today, a diverse network of high-quality professionals. But the pool of qualified candidates is small, and unfortunately the pool of qualified minority candidates is even smaller, because they're not going into education as a profession. That doesn't mean that we're going to give up on it. This is a very, very important priority for us, and we will continue to work diligently to identify candidates and to try to work to diversify our workforce. So we've been looking at opportunities to try to do that. And some of the things that we would like to look at as additional recruiting efforts is we are trying to find additional job fairs and career fairs that we can attend that have more diverse student populations. Maybe not to augment the ones that we're doing now, but maybe we need to replace some of the ones that we're currently visiting and try to replace them with other more diverse educational institutions. So we're looking to change some of those out. I do think that we have, in the age of technology, that we do have a lot of opportunities to try to increase our online recruiting presence above and beyond what we're doing right now. We are looking for different college and career and university sites, free job boards where we can post jobs and try to bring people in through those. A number of them do have career centers, and they're trying to help their students get jobs. So in some cases, they charge employers to actually post on their sites. In many cases, they don't. So we're looking for opportunities there. We've also found a site called HBCUcareers.com. HBCU stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. And this is a site, this one unfortunately is not free, but it is a site that is an online career resource center for historically black colleges and universities. It does represent approximately 95 participating colleges and universities, several of which are in Virginia and North Carolina and areas that we could attract people from. And then we're also looking at the possibility of online job fairs. That being said, we understand that although we feel like we have a great deal to offer here in Henry County and in this community, we know that that we're going to have difficulty competing both with the salaries and the cultural opportunities that young people often find in more metropolitan areas of Virginia and North Carolina. So we know that in order to try to be able to diversify and in order to even be able to maintain the applicant pools that we're going to need going forward as we continue to have more faculty retire, that we're going to need to spend more focus on growing people from within. So we are also looking at our existing workforce, classified employees who may already be working towards teaching degrees or interested in working towards teaching degrees. Now, we need to be involved in that and make sure that we're going to have opportunities for them. We do get into situations when they get to needing student teaching and needing to go through observations and so forth, that becomes problematic. So we need to be working closely with the colleges that they're attending to make sure that we're going to be able to work with them to make that happen while they're still working for us. At the secondary level, there are programs that are already in place, the Teacher Cadet Program, the O. Henry Internship Program, and in the past there have been job shadowing opportunities. I don't know how frequently those have been done in the last few years, but those are programs that we can look at trying to encourage more participation among students at the secondary level for interest in going into the field of education. And then we would like to work with the local colleges to try to then make sure they already have programs in place. The Career Switcher program at Patrick Henry, both ODU, Averett, Longwood, and U College Institute have programs, but to make sure that the students who are participating in programs and have an interest at the secondary level have a career path to go through those programs and hopefully be interested in continuing to stay in Henry County and to work for Henry County schools when they get out. Some other opportunities that we have discussed with some people are how to get the word out and to be able to get the word out through some suggestions that have been made to us are getting the word out through local church groups, through the local ministerial association, through college day and college night events. I was not aware that there are even some local churches that do college day events, and you know that they had indicated they might be willing to work with us on that, as well as through fraternity and sorority alumni associations. And as Dr. Cotton had already alluded to, we did find when we got into this process that Henry County Schools has not been monitoring race and ethnicity of all of our applicants to the Henry County Public Schools website. I don't think that was intentional. I think that we're finding that there are a lot of things in our recruiting system that we were not utilizing because it's only been used for a couple of years, and I think that we just weren't aware of what all the capabilities were. So that is something that Talented Recruit and Hire does have the ability to monitor EEO data, Equal Employment Opportunity data, and that this will be done going forward. And as Dr. Cotton mentioned, it will be recorded by applicants who supply it voluntarily and reported in aggregate, but not on the individual level. So as people view those applications, they won't see the demographic data. What questions can I answer for you, or is there anything you wanted to add at this point?
I think Mrs. Landon captured it. I did want to provide this opportunity for the board to weigh in on any ideas or suggestions or questions that you have. We've been working on this over the past few months. I can say we've been working on this really all along, but we've been spending more time unpacking this to learn more about what we can do. We've met with community leaders to talk about ideas, and you've seen some of those reflected in the presentation. But I'd like to hear more from the board to see if we're on target, on the right track. Is there something that we missed, or any suggestions that you have or questions?
Well, I'm pleased you met with community leaders. It's my understanding that Reverend Eccles has agreed to serve on the committee, or whatever you call it, going forward on this.
Potentially, yeah. We talked to him and others about recruiting efforts and recruiting teams and things like that. So still haven't finalized.
Oh, still haven't finalized.
I don't want to put out that he's on a committee yet that he doesn't know about, but we are looking to add some additional community leaders to our committees.
I think that the effort to expand the area of recruitment is probably the most effective in increasing your diversity. Understandably, somebody that lives close to Henry County would look at Henry County first. But, I was looking at the different colleges there, like Norfolk State, which is not that far away. And you got a few ties over in that area that might help us in recruiting there. But also, which I didn't see, was anything up in the D.C. area or anything like that, which might be a place to recruit. And I think it's also very important to maintain a blindness, if you will, to color when we start looking at qualifications and stuff, because we want the most qualified regardless of their ethnic background. But I think that would be the key to increasing diversity, is expanding. And maybe another thing, and I don't think I saw that anywhere, was, are you doing any recruitment activity on a national level? Are there any national publications or national websites or anything like that that you're doing?
The only one that's national is teachers.com.
Okay, so there's no like National Teachers Association, well, National, I don't know, Education.
Like Education Week, those typically are utilized for upper higher level positions, superintendents, assistant superintendents, and they cost. There's a cost associated with that to post on their website or in their publication, but teachers.
And you may be able to recruit too in some major metropolitan places. Understandably, you're talking about young folks just coming out of college, but and they're going to want all the exciting things that they can find out there in the world. On the other hand, there may be folks that are tired of the big city life that might be looking to go to someplace less exciting, if you will. I guess different, right? And so you might be able, you may be able to recruit in those areas those individuals.
One of our challenges in areas like Northern Virginia is that our salaries are much lower than theirs, and unfortunately, when students just come out of college, they don't do a lot of analysis on the cost of living differences and the quality of life. They just they often just look at the bottom line, and so it's hard for us to stack up.
School divisions near Northern Virginia are constantly telling me that they're losing staff to Northern Virginia because of that very reason, the salary. They don't do the comparisons.
Well, I'm thinking beyond the borders of Virginia. I'm thinking, NYC, Atlanta, Dallas, some other places. I don't know that would bear any fruit at all. It's just an idea. Certainly, you would increase your diversity if you did recruit from those areas, I would think.
At one time, we gave referral incentives to our teachers because I'm pretty sure some of you are aware of the biblical scripture that says sheep beget sheep. So our teachers could probably be one of our better recruiting methods. Do we still give that incentive? It used to be listed. We got an incentive for what? We don't give that anymore? Okay. We can't afford that anymore, huh? Okay.
How much was that? Was it a monetary?
I think it's $250. Was it $500?
The person, we sign the person and they put you down as the person confirming that it's $500.
The United States military uses that program, and it works, right?
Sure does.
Yeah.
But that may be something we want to consider. And back to the classified employees that are trying to become teachers. And we had a problem, Dr. Carter and I discussed about an individual that wanted to become, but was having problems with the student teaching. So are we working more towards that effort of making sure that transition is worked out, or because we have people, teacher aides or other employees that want to become teachers, and we have some minorities there. But I know of 2 cases where when they ask questions, they're not getting good information. How to go through this, how to set up to make sure that you get your student teaching, what it is you need, and all this. And somewhere along the lines, dropping the ball. We lost one teacher to another school system last year because of that. Tried for a couple of years, but was unable to get the right information.
We are aware of the difficulties, and Mr. House has been working, you might want to chime in here. Mr. House has been working with some of the colleges. I know Longwood is one that he has been meeting with recently to make sure that, often we have people who are in programs that we don't even know that they're in. And then the college, I don't want to shift any blame anywhere, but the college makes promises about programs that they can put them through, and we don't know that they're in these programs, but they're employees that we're expecting to be here every day. So when it gets to a situation where all of a sudden they need to be out for so many weeks to do observations or then to do student teaching, and it would require us to pay a substitute, because a number of our classified employees, a number of our paraprofessionals, we do pay substitutes when they're out. It's a situation where we can't allow them to just take that period of time off.
And that's why Mrs. Land mentioned when she was talking about it that we have to be in a partnership with those colleges and universities up front, and we need to be involved in that process. We do have some situations that we're working with folks to the point that we can, but as Mrs. Landon said, you can't have somebody leave a job for a period of time because you need to put somebody in that spot. Students are counting on someone to be in that role. So, and we don't have the funding to hire a sub while someone's student teaching. So we need to work through that.
We also open ourselves up if you got 1 or 2 people who are expecting that type of arrangement, but the colleges recruit, what they're doing is they're just getting enrollment. And then, so if they have 20 people and if they all work for us, we let 1 or 2 go, we have to let all 20 go. So there needs to be a mechanism that takes place. Similar to what we did before when we had our teacher academy. When we had the teacher academy, you had to be, you had to get into that. You couldn't just go take college courses and then decide to do it. You had to get into the teacher academy. And what we did is, we screened those people, we selected good people, and they went through and they got that. And then when they came out, there were arrangements that they could do that. But you have, that's a huge budget item. If you open it up to just whoever's in the college's program, as opposed to people that have been pre-selected or have gone through a process to get into that program.
Okay. But what I want us to look at is the long range effect all of this will have on us. We don't want to just hire a new teacher and let them get experience and then move on to another system. We want the people to stay here if they're good. And if we've got local people that are trying to become teachers, and we know once they become teachers they're going to stay here, then I think it requires a little bit extra effort. And I think that requires a little bit extra consideration.
But they need to be good.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's what we did with the Teacher Academy. We had over 50 people to apply, get in it. We selected 12. We selected 12 people out of that pool to do that, and we took through, and we still have a number of those people employed here with us. But it wasn't open to just anybody, because the assumption is that I can go take classes and I can get in it and I'm on it. Because then the other side of that is, once they finish that program, there's an expectation that there's a job waiting on the other end.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen every time.
And I think we all agree. And I'm trying to identify, being new here, I don't know who a lot of these people are. So I'm trying to identify who these people are who are interested and who are already working on degrees. And I understand it's confusing when you say that sometimes you don't get these answers. Unfortunately, working with licensure is far more challenging than I thought it was going to be coming in. So I understand why it's challenging for our teachers, because it's challenging from an HR perspective as well. It may seem like a small thing, but another obstacle that we have is that, if they're trying to get a license, in the state of Virginia, you can't obtain a license unless you obtain it through a teacher preparation program, or you obtain it because you have been offered a teaching job through a school system. If that can happen at the beginning of the summer when there's enough time to get that license in, that works out really well. When sometimes you say, well, you have this really good classified person who has finished their degree, can you go ahead and hire them for this teaching position? Again, if it's in the middle of the year, we can't hire them as a licensed teacher because they don't have a license yet, and that's anywhere from a 4 to 8 week process. And so what happens is, if they're a classified employee and they're already receiving benefits, the only way that they could obtain that teaching position and that license is if they quit their classified position, give up their benefits so that they can become a part-time substitute teacher. We actually had someone who did it this year. It was a big sacrifice on his part, but he did do it this year. But we have to work with each individual situation, and so trying to identify those people, and Mr. House has been actively working with the partnerships with the colleges, and we understand we have a lot of legwork to put in, but we also agree that our best opportunity is to capture those people who are already here, either as employees or as students within our system who want to stay here in Henry County.
The challenge is getting folks to stay. You can recruit from all over, but a lot of the recent research talks about how recruiting efforts will increase diversity coming in, but then they don't stay after a few years. So one of the things that we've learned is when you recruit from within, they're more likely to stay.
That's one of the things I keep emphasizing. I think that it requires perhaps consideration for a little bit more effort.
Any other questions?
Can we look at and do some consideration into the referral incentives again? I know it's a budgetary item, but we're planning for another year.
Again, like I said, it will be a budgetary impact, but we can certainly discuss it.
Would also look at how impactful that was in the past. Did it lead to a lot of?
Yeah, I would have to learn more about that because I haven't seen any data to support. Did you all get the sense it was effective, those of you that were on the board at that time?
I had a couple of teachers to approach me and thank me for the incentive, but that was about it.
Take time to how long they stay.
No, it was basically.
Just if they were.
You have to really vet it, because there were situations where individuals got jobs here and they were told, hey, put my name down. I'll get that money for you.
Yeah.
So you had someone that legitimately people recruited people to the division, and you had some where they just got to put somebody's name down when they signed a contract with us.
They knew someone who got hired.
Well, it's a good way to do that. It's a good way to do that. It's just like a couple of the organizations I'm in that give scholarships. We don't give it all the first semester. You got to start the second semester before you get the rest of it. So we can add all kinds of stuff in there to make sure of that.
Just put a line on the application, who referred you. And if their name's there, they get it, and if their name ain't there, then they don't get it. That's easy to fix that.
I think it's
But what he's saying is somebody told them to put their name on there.
Oh, I see what you're
They
saying.
didn't really.
Recruit them, but they put my name down, I get that money.
Oh, I
I'll
got
split it with you.
I'll have to learn more about this because I wasn't here.
If they came 1 year and left, then the person got the money.
Well, that's the other issue you have with hiring incentives. I know some school divisions did an incentive for math science teachers, and then they came in and then they left. And if they were told to stay for 3 years, that's how many they stayed.
Yeah.
They left. So you gotta watch that, because sometimes.
You did make a statement there, or maybe Christy made it earlier, that you weren't capturing this data earlier because there's no on an application, you don't identify age of the statistic and so forth. But you're saying now that you can, how are you going to do that?
It's voluntary.
It's not on the application.
They'll ask the question on the application, but what will happen is the data will be stored kind of behind the platform, so that people can't view it unless they are an administrator.
And there, I would assume there's a statement on there saying this is voluntary and this will, interviewers will not see this.
It's always voluntary, and then we tell them it will not have any, it will not have any bearing on anything.
Because there's a lot of considerations that we need to think about when we're staffing our schools. And I know for a number of years, we had an elementary school in my district that didn't have a male teacher. And that was one of the main concerns whenever I visited that school is, can you get us a male teacher? And not that the male teacher was going to do that much better, but there was a sense that if you had a male there. And this was an instance where someone walked in off the street and went in the teacher's lounge and went through the purses and walked off. And they felt, not necessarily, that if they would have had a male here, he would have run them down, But that's something to think about.
I mean, but you saw the numbers with males. I tell you, I was the only male in an elementary school for a while, so I got all the jobs that I had to check all the bathrooms, boys' bathrooms on a regular basis. But I've been in that situation, but it's more so at elementary. We're struggling to get more males. We have some really good candidates. We've been monitoring student teaching, and we hired a couple males this year for elementary. So we're making some progress. It's not as fast.
I mean, I think the gender issue is as much as the racial ethnicity. Kids need good male role models.
I mean, when we say diversity, we need all types of diversity.
And something else that I would like us to consider when we're looking at diversity, we need to look at the increasing Hispanic population. And we need to think along those lines too.
That's an even bigger challenge.
Any other discussion or questions? Well, I think that the best we can do is encourage you and your staff, and the entire staff here, is to continue the efforts. I don't know that there's a magic potion that's going to address this. Looking at the statistics that you presented there earlier, we need more people from a declining population.
It's a national issue. It's not a...
And we appreciate the efforts that are being made, and encourage you to continue them. We can be anything more than just moral support in doing so. So that's not what we can do.
Thank you for my calling.
And I belong to a large church organization, and I'm going to post it out there for them to consider a college day event. Because I can remember, it's been probably about 7 years ago, we helped one at my church, Moore Hill.
Well, that's where we got the idea. We got it from Reverend Eccles. He's the one who shared that with us. Thank you for your time.
Is the copy of your presentation available?
It's on
board docs.
It's on board docs. Would you like me to get you?
We have hard copies
Yes,
there.
right.
We work on Plan B, so we're on Plan B and C.
You're welcome to take mine.
Bill, do you and Christy want to go ahead and do your thing first, your part first? While you're here?
We can, sure.
Let me get the motion.
Got my next one.
Okay, following the end then of this work session, at this time I entertain a motion to go into closed session to deal with section 2.2-3711, 10A, and 1 Code of Virginia, Same section, print A, print C, and Code of Virginia regarding student matters. And again, in the same section, print A, 7, Code of Virginia, discussing legal matters. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Those in favor of this motion signify by raising your right hand.
Terry.
Okay, we will go into closed session. Ms. Overby, will you do the certification, please?
Yes. Whereas the School Board of Henry County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712.d of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Henry County hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Dr. Duvall?
Yes.
Mr. Law?
Yes.
Ms. Maddox?
Yes.
Mr. Milner?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
And Mr. Zaire?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have some motions out of closed session. Ms. Maddox, you have a motion?
Yes, sir. I move that the personnel report and the addendum to the personnel report be approved as presented. Second.
Discussion. Those in support of this motion signify by raising your right hand. Ms. Rogers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we approve the recommendations of the Special Placement Committee for special placement and non-listed. Second.
Discussion. Those in favor of this motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion's carried. One final motion to adjourn from someone.
Move to adjourn.